Meeting number 22 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills and Social Development and the Status of Persons with Disabilities, pursuant to the orders of reference of April 11 and May 26, 2020. The committee is resuming its study of the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Today's meeting is taking place by video conference, and the proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. The webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. When you are ready to speak, please click on the microphone icon to activate your mic. I would like to remind everyone to please use the language channel of the language they are speaking. I would now like to welcome our witnesses today. We have Steve Cordes, the Chief Executive Officer of Youth Opportunities Unlimited, as well as Monsieur Bernard Racicot, Coordinator Laurentide. Mr. Cordes, please proceed with your opening remarks.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to be here today. I want to give you a bit of an overview about Youth Opportunities Unlimited. I understand that in your package you had received a letter that we received from a young person who recently graduated from a program at YOU. And I included that. I'll come back to it, but I included that in the package today because most of that young person's activity with our organization actually took place during the pandemic. And he had some what we found really wonderful insights into his experiences that kind of reinforce for us what we find is quite helpful actually in supporting, in particular, marginalized youth. So what does Youth Opportunities Unlimited do in a nutshell? We're a local not-for-profit organization incorporated in London, Ontario. We've been around since 1982. I've been with the organization since 1984 and been its CEO since 1988. So a lot of history with this organization. It started off as actually a provincially funded youth employment center focused on providing employment supports for young people who are leaving school early, really to help address that gap between not having experience to get a job and then needing access and supports to access the job market when you don't have experience and often limited education. As we've developed our organization, we've kept with that same mandate. Our vision is a community where all youth are embraced and engaged and will thrive. And so our vision statement is as much about our community as it is about youth and about what we do, more so actually about community. That informs key priorities for us. We're funded by all levels of government. We still provide employment programs. We do a variety of job placement programs, many of those funded by our provincial government. We also have a significant footprint in affordable housing. And I know that MP Vaughan will know about that because he's been to our facility a number of times in his tenure. And we also have a growing footprint on that. And we also have a long-standing training platform using social enterprise models as a vehicle for training people on prepare people for employment. So how does all that work? In a nutshell, we have probably 25 or so different programs that are operating at any one time, funded by all levels of government, the federal government in a couple of departments, the provincial government through 3 different ministries, municipal government, United Way, and as well as a significant amount of earned revenues from Youth Opportunities Unlimited's social enterprises. They all, although it can be messy in terms of administration, from a young person's experience, they all interplay with each other beautifully. So a young person can come into our organization at various access points. They may be experiencing homelessness, and they're coming in looking for a place to eat. They're looking for a safe place to help them find housing for that night, whether it's a shelter or permanent housing, or in fact, they could have graduated from school and looking for that very first career opportunity. All the above, there's various access points that access people into the right starting point for them. So it might be sitting out with an employment counselor working on a resume. It might be not even touching a resume for a long time, but focusing in on how do we get you in front of some employers that will want to meet with you, or it might be connecting with a housing advisor and helping you find permanent housing. For us, what's key around those successes really is the relationship with people. Well, they may coming in looking for a particular touch point. What really, for a marginalized and a vulnerable young person, what really works fundamentally well is finding the right person to connect with. And that's where I think that letter jumps into play. So at a highlight, of course, I won't read it to you, but as a highlight, that young person, his name's Sam, he wrote that letter in voluntarily after he graduated from some programs at YOU. He was engaged in YOU, having provided actual physical care for his mom for a number of years. I think since he's a very young child, he was actually caring for his mother. And it was through his grandmother that he got connected to Youth Opportunities Unlimited, knowing that she was worried about his overall health. She was worried about a very isolated grandson. And she wasn't sure what the outcome was, but she wanted him connected to an organization. He engaged with one of our employment counselors, which is a provincially funded program at YOU. And through that, he started exploring what his options were available to him. He ended up being connected with a federally funded program called ISE, which is delivered through Youth Opportunities Unlimited. And through that, he trained in a recycling facility at YOU. I mentioned our social enterprises. We use them as a platform to train people, not because, in this case, with recycling, not because he wanted to necessarily work in the recycling industry, but he had never drawn a paycheck before. And if you read the letter, had the opportunity to read the letter, you will have learned that he suffers from significant mental health issues, some addictions issues that were profound. In his own words, he didn't care if he woke up the next day every time he went to bed. He wasn't actively trying to prevent it from happening, but he didn't care. And it was his grandmother that got him connected to that. He was not ready to go out looking for work. So that recycling facility was an opportunity for him to start getting a place of security, a place of grounding, and building a community for him. Out of that, he ended up going back into some provincially funded programs, and most recently was hired through actually an online interview with Home Depot. He's been with Home Depot for just over a month, and he's already had one promotion. He and I shared actually a panel sponsored by CAMH on serving youth with mental health issues during COVID. His insights were that he probably would not have connected with this program, with this organization, if not for COVID. His anxiety was so much that he could not have envisioned himself walking into an office, sitting across the table from strangers. An online platform made it easier for him to do that. So that gives a bit of insight about why I chose to use that letter. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've got under development because they provide insight, into particularly around a COVID time right now. We've got a couple of projects on the go that really focus on housing. One is a project with our partnership at Children's Aid Society, our child welfare organization in London, where we're providing housing for young people aging out of care. These are young people as young as 16 years old who otherwise would be experiencing homelessness. There is a shelter in town right now that they could go to. There is shelter space access to them. Many of these young people have experienced human trafficking. They've experienced horrible trauma. And to go into a large shelter, they just won't do it. So they'll sleep on the streets instead. They'll couch surf with friends. They'll get by. They'll trade off. They'll find a place to live, but they won't have a home. This place provides an access path towards a home. So there's 6 apartments, each of them independent. Every day they have some contact with a staff member from Youth Opportunities Unlimited and ongoing care from the Children's Aid Society. The program has been an amazing success. It operates actually without additional government funding, just through the funding relationship between YOU and Children's Aid Society. We're just about to actually this week, and MP Vaughn will be interested in knowing this, that our shelter actually completes construction this week, Adam. So actually we'll open to the public on August 17th. We've created, over the past 3 years, a concept for a 30-bed youth shelter. As it turns out, it's an amazing resource in COVID, actually, because it's unlike most shelters, there's no dorm style. It's 30 individual rooms for 30 people with 10-foot wide hallways. And why did we create that? Because certainly we envisioned it long before there was a pandemic. But we know that young people that come into shelter, they've experienced trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, in many, many ways. And so to put them in a dorm style, many young people will choose to sleep outside instead of that. So 30 beds for 30 people allowed us to support people of the LGBTQ community without feeling that they're at risk, people that need emotional respite of having their own room, or people that need isolation for the safety of other people. The 10-foot wide hallways for emergency responders to come and go easily, because if they're ever on site, it's an emergency and they need to come and go fast. So as it turns out, this is an amazing facility during a time of pandemic.
Get you to wrap up there, Mr. Cortez, please.
Absolutely. So what I think works really, really well, and what I would hope that the government will continue to invest in outside of just the individual programs I've talked to you about, really looking at infrastructure that you're investing in that offers leverage opportunities. Our experience over the past 40 years or so has taught us one thing very loud and clear, and that is that young people that have been marginalized, young people that are vulnerable, they rely heavily on relationships. So it's not so much about these wonderful programs that get created, it's the people behind the programs that really matter. So as a government, if you could find ways to invest in organizations and individuals that have a track record of supporting vulnerable or marginalized people, you'll get a better result. Your communities will get a better result. As a national government, I think one of your challenges is how do we offer a national program, but really is delivered at a local level? And I would urge you to continue to find ways for local flexibility, local delivery organizations, because that's where that's where change really happens. Again, where the glue is these local partnerships, these local experts. I think I'll stop there because I know there'll be some questions and make room for my other panelists. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Suite, nous avons Monsieur Racicot. Vous avez...
Mr. Racicot is next, and you have the floor, sir. You may be muted. Sorry. Bernard Racicot, coordinator, Maison des Jeunes de Basse-Laurentide. Unfortunately, Ms. Corsol offers her regrets. She was unable to assist at this meeting. Well, not regrets. She's on holiday and couldn't make it back. However, the Maison des Jeunes, basically a drop-in center for the youth, des Basses-Laurentides, Eastern Townships, first and foremost a gathering place for young people aged 12 to 17, mainly from the greater Sainte-Thérèse region. These people come here to spend quality time together and are accompanied by a team of counselors who give them a warm welcome. This place is safe, lively, motivating, and dynamic, a place that reflects their image. The center is also a meeting place for a community that cares about its young people, their experiences and opinions, and where ideas emerge. Discussions are lively, and awareness, problem-solving, and prevention projects take shape. As a partner to and with the community, the MDG is the center, the drop-in center, in its own way engages in concerted active plans with the municipality, with public safety authorities, and health and social services centers, and other community partners. We work as a team. Our mandate is to be a privileged gathering place which fosters the experience, the transition from adolescence to adulthood as smoothly as possible. We accompany the various stages of a young person's life. And during the summer, for example, this is achieved through working within the community at various targeted areas and projects where the young people might be on the verge of developing risky behaviors. Our client group, as I mentioned earlier, are youth 12 to 17. They live in the area around Sainte-Thérèse. First, they come to our center out of curiosity. They come because they find a place that reflects their image. We also want them to feel at home. Clients are not excluded on the basis of their age, but rather on the basis of their behavior. We make sure that the young people here adopt a respectful attitude and a sense of community. They have to respect themselves, respect others, respect the ethics and values of our center. Our mission, then, is to foster the development of self-esteem through individual and group presence and interventions. Through active listening, we help them to achieve success. This is important. And accompanying them to adopt values related to respect and autonomy. We assist in the development of their social skills and help them to live in harmony with others who may think differently than them without experience rejection. The interventions are mostly of a preventative nature. We hope to raise awareness and referral activities. Social interventions encourages the development of ties with other young people and to get them to become comfortable with communicating, sharing in an open and feeling way. Educational intervention helps to develop social, academic, cultural, and sports skills. Basically, that's what we do. We have various activities. We have musical activities. My role as I teach music, but we organize events where it's basically music, and we organize the kids to work in a studio. We record them. They offer concerts to the community. Where they develop self-confidence. It's a very central activity to our center. We also have a kitchen where the youth learn to cook, culinary skills. For example, we had to, what can you do with a crab dinner? How can you doctor it to be impressive? We also teach them improv theater, so that they can develop how to respond to others, interact with others in a respectful manner, and to work as a team. Sports, of course, and games, group. All this with the objective of establishing solid relationships with youth and among youth. Sainte-Thérèse is a rather disadvantaged community. They're not very rich, so our activities are there to try to make them appreciate the fact of what they have, not what they don't have. Our watershed area is a Sainte-Thérèse activity in Quebec, and many of our financing activities our fundraising activities are important. We try to provide activities and events which will, in fact, assist us in funding from a local base. With the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we were closed, of course, on the 16th of March, and operations were in abeyance for a while. We were unable to undertake any activities until mid-May. But we tried to organize meetings through various social media networks, Messenger, Instagram, Zoom, quite popular and very useful. It helped us to get the kids from being too isolated. What we've learned through these social media, and also by way of Zoom webinars and correspondence programs, they were very isolated and quite unmotivated. It was very hard to get through to them. The pandemic also forced us to cancel a number of our main fundraising events. And on the 8th of May, we usually have our major activity, a lobster night, where we generally raise between $30,000 and $40,000. We had to cancel that. It was pretty tough because the youth were looking forward to it, and they wanted to have an opportunity to highlight their talents. So it was very difficult for them. We also had to cancel a number of concerts we had planned for the summer. One very important activity is a 3-day camp, 3 days camping in the country. And it was really tough for them to lose that opportunity. So we got back into our activities on June the 1st with outside meetings. We were unable to open up our center again, so they're all done on the outside. We've managed to hire or purchase a gazebo so that they're undercover, or sun or shine, but we can only have a maximum of 10 individuals at a time. We also have other outreach activities within the village of Sainte-Thérèse to try to attract them and draw them in further. So our strength is being flexible and approaching the youth, which is what we do. So the capacity for social intervention they brings these young people to be much more interactive with each other and with adults. We try to reach out to them every day so that during the pandemic, so that we don't lose the momentum, and it's a team spirit. So that's it for now. Thanks for your attention, and I'll be prepared to answer your questions. Thank you, Mr. Resico.
Mr. Albus, please, for 6 minutes.
Do I have the floor, Mr. Chair?
Do indeed.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that last part. First of all, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to our witnesses for coming today, Mr. Resico, as well as Mr. Cortez. Certainly, I would like to start with you both. Now, Mr. Cortez, you had mentioned that the approach that you've taken in your municipality is highly localized. Could you explain a little bit about how the Youth Opportunities Unlimited started, and why you think that it's so important to have from a bottom-up community response to some of the challenges you see in your community?
Thank you very much. We started actually as a provincially funded through Provincial Youth Employment Secretariat, and although it was a hard start, I'd say a real benefit of what that start was the provincial government at that time would invest up to a certain platform of dollars. Only they would match either donations or in-kind contributions to your organization. So they might have approved a couple $100,000 in funding, but that would only be if you got a couple $100,000 worth of contributions from your community, they would match up to that. And I'd say that created a spirit within this organization that is phenomenally community-based. So, for example, we have this training program that's delivered through it's federal training through something called ISC, where we can purchase short-term training from a registered school that would actually educational institution that would actually leverage employment opportunities in high-demand areas for youth. And so, in London, for example, we purchased customer care training from Fanshawe College. They delivered on-site at our facility. The young people that we support would not go to the college. It's just a physical barrier. It's an emotional barrier. They just wouldn't go. We can coach the college staff. They've got amazing expertise, but what they don't necessarily have is a platform for how do we engage with a vulnerable population, with the marginalized population. And so we actually work with them on the curriculum adjustments. The feedback we get from the youth that go through this program is just amazing.
And so that goes back to the relationship you say that you have, because it's not about the programming, it's about the trust that they have. Is that correct?
Exactly. And about 25% of our clients want to go on to post-secondary education. And a significant number of them do actually go on to Fanshawe College or even some of the schools at Western University in London. It's these partnerships that start opening the bridge and help them redefine themselves. They would not walk in those doors.
I'm just going to ask Monsieur Radico, c'est la même situation comme vous?
Mr. Rasico, is it the same for you? Mr. Rasico, could you keep your mic a little bit further from your shirt? Because otherwise we cannot hear you well. Thank you. All right, thank you. So what was the question? Can you repeat the question? Yes, the question is the following. For your work in your community, is the local approach key to better the situation of young people?
If you're at ease with it. Oui, toute l'approche locale avec.
Yes, well, the local approach with our youth, what we're attempting to do, we work with other partners, of course. It's a collaborative effort with other partners in the community. And very, very important for our particular community. We try to work with other partners as much as possible. There are a number of stakeholders and partners, and that's the basis. We work together with the schools in particular. I don't know if that answers your question. I can try again.
Funding, sir, do you also have a similar approach, or are you exclusively funded by government, or is there a combination of matching funds between the private sector, charity from individuals and local?
Well, we're asking from funds from private parts, and also we having matching funds that needs to be created, if I can say. So everything we can take, we're taking it. But and also on a les subventions du gouvernement.
We also get some grants from the government of Quebec. There are always some access, and they're very important source. Chamber of Commerce, for example, is also present as a partner. Private sector partners are involved, but of course government assistance is always appreciated and very necessary, particularly now at this time.
Appreciate hearing from both the importance of having both funding from government to give you that sustaining amount, but also that the fact that it's the community itself that supports the enterprise, and it's not being forced on the community in any way, shape, or form. Just to you both now, en anglais, or in English, perhaps both of you can just share how your arrangements or how your organization has handled COVID-19. Mr. Courts, I'd like to hear you speak specifically, maybe a little bit about how a social worker or every day at the affordable housing shelter you mentioned, that there's that contact between your staff and the young people, and perhaps, Monsieur Radico, you could let us know. You've said a little bit about the gazebo. Maybe you could just give us an idea about what other alterations you've had to make since COVID-19.
Hey, gentlemen, we're out of time, so we're going to need very brief responses from each of you, please.
We've gone a bit of a blended model. So for our housing programs, housing support programs, a mobile housing team, our daily food programs, those are still delivered in person with all proper, protocols and so on, distancing and so on, but that's still delivered in person. Our employment supports are delivered online. We have workshops that are delivered online, as well as individual employment counselors who make a point of reaching out and connecting with young people probably more frequently than what they would have seen when they were actually in-person appointments. And we're about to relaunch more of our in-person employment counseling over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
And I'll be as brief as I can as well. Thank you very much to Madame Chabot, who allowed us to get one extra summer job for our gang. What we do with our team, we're going to conduct a survey, and we're trying to reach out to the youth of the region to get a better understanding of how they're dealing with going through this pandemic, in order to facilitate re-entry into the school structure in the fall, and how they're making out with this pandemic in our area. So we have a team of youth that are going to go out and do the survey, and we'll be sitting in the gazebo from time to time to discuss and do some planning, of course, and to attract more participation from youth in Sainte-Thérèse.
Turnbull, please, for 6 minutes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks to both our witnesses for being here today. It's great to hear from both of you, and it's great it's amazing how much experience you bring to this conversation. Mr. Cortez, I'll probably have most of my questions for you because I think my colleagues will probably focus on our other witness today, Mr. Resico. Mr. Cortez, thank you for your 35 years of commitment to your local community. I actually had an opportunity to tour your organization's facilities on Richmond Road and Richmond Street in London, I guess a few years ago, and I know you're profiled as an organization that's really embracing social innovation. So thanks for all your work. Can you maybe paint us a portrait? Certainly the testimonial from Samuel paints us a portrait, perhaps of the at-risk youth in your community. But during this pandemic, there's certainly evidence to suggest that youth at risk would be even more vulnerable than normal. Can you tell us, or just sort of paint us a picture for how the vulnerability is increasing for those youth at risk?
I guess a really blunt comment is that our staff tell me that we've lost 5 young people to overdoses over the past few weeks. And that level of loss is, there's no comparison for our previous history. Most of that would have been unintentional. It would have been daily use that escalated as a coping strategy. So certainly drug and alcohol use, substance abuse has gone up. And I think what's really become even more important for us is those daily connections. So I mentioned our housing team briefly in the last answer to the last question. And to elaborate a little bit on that, so we're still knocking on doors of young people that live in our buildings on almost a daily basis. We have a daily breakfast program that's now a bagged program. So it's limited in terms of all the protocols, of course, that underlines everything. But it's really important that we're still that touch space for people because that level of isolation for people who are already feeling marginalized and outside of community is just profound. And anxiety levels are up, depression levels are up, and of course I mentioned some of the evidence of that through loss of life. It's profound.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I know it's concerning for all of us. Does this, I guess what I want to ask you is, does this inform any changes that we can make? I know that we've been deeply concerned as a government for all different segments of the population that may be marginalized and additionally more vulnerable at this time. And we've been rolling out supports very quickly for all of those segments of the population. I just wonder whether you have, from your experience, anything that can inform any further changes to help youth in your community.
That's a really good question. And I've thought about that. What are the specific things? And, they still need in-person support. And I would say that wherever you're making investments, that you look to your providers and you encourage, within safety, of course, but you encourage in-person support. Because we can talk about our circles of 10 and we can talk about our social frameworks and so on. Either these folks just don't have that, or the folks that are around them are folks that are really not what you and I would consider supports. And one of the young people put it to me really, really well a couple of years ago. Actually, Adam would have met her. Her name's Courtney. And she talked about how when you're actually experiencing life homelessness, your friends don't give, which is what we would consider as friends. Your friends take. So if you get money, your friends want it. If you get food, your friends want it. Drugs, whatever that might be of value, a home, an apartment, your friends will come and crash. So your friends aren't necessarily building you up. They're so hungry and hungry in a very general sense, not literally necessarily, but hungry in a very general sense for support that they'll take whatever they can from you. And so those folks, to break from that, they need a strong community around them. They don't need to be told what to do. They need a strong community around them that is that support that can gravitate to. And I think that's where Sam is a good illustration of that, because Sam gives 50% of his success to his grandmother, and 50% of his success to YOU, is what he said when he's on that webinar a couple of weeks ago. And we didn't let him get away with that, because he earns 100% of his success. But these folks were just community that we all have a right to, but not everybody has that. And those marginalized folks particularly don't have that. So I encourage your providers to find ways to be in person. Many of my colleagues, not to really be armchair quarterbacks, but I saw too many organizations that walked away from the in-person contact right away without any platform for how they're going to get back to it.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Cortez. Just last question here, quickly. I know your model seems particularly effective because it combines housing, employment supports, a variety of programming to engage youth, food, and social enterprise. And I'm really interested in the successful combination of housing, food, and social enterprise. And I wonder how that might be informative for economic recovery and youth success in the future. Do you want to say something about that just quickly? I know Mr. Chair is going to cut me off there any second.
Yeah, you're out of time. A short answer, please, Mr. Cortez.
Well, okay.
I know it's a big question, but do your best.
Yeah, it's a big question. Yeah, could you summarize the question really quickly? Because I did have a short answer. I can come back to. Are you allowed to do that?
Sure.
Intersection between housing and social enterprise and food. Do you want to tell us anything about that successful model?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So in brief, most of our very marginalized young people never walk in the doors at YOU saying, I'm looking for work. It's not because they don't want it. They don't see it in their realm. They don't see it within their future. So our social enterprise platforms have been really successful in helping young people find their niche. Not because they want to work in a cafe or recycling facility or whatever, but because it inspires community, it inspires work, and it inspires hope. I think Sam's letter spoke to that. So the intersection of all of that, and with that housing and supportive housing that provides that safe place that becomes that starting point for people, the intersection around all of that is just phenomenal. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Suite, Madame Chabot, s'il vous plaît, pour 6 minutes.
Monsieur le Président, bonjour.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First of all, you'll have to excuse me, yourself, and the colleagues, and the clerk and interpreters and everyone else. I'm late, and I apologize. The interpreters are doing very well with the sound. Thank you. Yes, thank you. It's very, very, very good to have you anyway, late or not. Better late than never. Yes, but everybody was very much on time, and I am very punctual. But first of all, I want to thank both witnesses. I did listen in, and I'll make a general statement first. The youth themselves having testified on webinars, as you've just said, Mr. Cortez, 50% goes to granny. Well, that's good. I have a lot of grandkids, and I know that we are significant personalities in their life. So I would say that grab every opportunity that you can. We do need some orientation, some counseling, some guidance for youth. And for the various services that we offer to youth, these are vital to their success. I am absolutely convinced that if we continue to support in these direct relational fashions, and if we take a look at the background of the Maison des Jeunes, Basse-Laurentide, they've had their ups and downs, their highs and lows, but it's all working out very well for the community. In the 80s and 90s, for example, there was nowhere for youth people to go. There were no drop-in centers or places where they could meet. This is what you're offering to these young people. You meet with their parents occasionally when you have your fantastic food fests and your galas, and they're much appreciated. So my question, how did you align all this and deal with the pandemic? what really struck us as the hardest thing to deal with was isolation, the lockup, lockdown, whatever. It's very difficult for everyone, youth in particular. Youth are very gregarious. They have to be together. So, question is, we know you have a team, partners in the community. You've said it yourselves, both of you, and it's financed mostly by grants in most cases. And were you able to benefit from federal subsidies, wage assistance, or other of the benefits that are being offered right now, the CERB and everything else?
If so, do you consider that programs are sufficient for you to survive? Yes, we have used the federal programs. 2 of our staff people used the CERB, and there's also some of our staff, our students as well. So they used the one that's for students. It's very important for us that we had those supports because otherwise we would not have survived. I work part-time with the center. I was on the CERB with another organization for which I work. I was able to give some time to the Maison des Jeunes through social media. That was essential for us to make it through. We'd always want more. We never have enough. The needs are enormous. We have youth that have a lot of anxiety issues as well. Our team is a reduced team this summer. Thanks to you, Ms. Chabot, we have been able to hire an extra staff member for the summer. We always have to adapt. It's hard because we're caught between different things. Before we had our meetings at the beginning of the summer with our staff. How will the summer be? How will we intervene? How will we move forward? No one knows. We had a certain security with the regards to money with the team we had to make sure that we can intervene towards youth. Thank you. Here's my second question. With regards to the survey as to how youth went through COVID, we're hoping that it won't happen, but some people are talking about a second wave. We're concerned about the fall for youth. If I'm not mistaken, the 12, 17-year-olds are the ones that are your clientele. We've seen that these kids are concerned, that they're despairing. The high schools that they normally go to are still closed. They're isolated. How have you been able to keep in touch despite it all? What could we do, or what would help you the most for the next step? We've talked about CERB, but with youth, is there another way or other measures that you could put in place to help you? Short answer, please. I will tell you a short story. My colleague has contacted with people on social media, my colleague called a young girl that was suffering from anxiety, and my colleague went to see her, and that was the first time this girl was getting out of her place. This shows how youth are isolated and feel anxiety. With anxiety, there are other issues that can go all the way through drugs. That's the short answer. Our needs are with regards having a team that can support those meetings that will be more and more individual. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chabot.
Next, Ms. Kwan, please, for 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to both of the witnesses. Both of you actually emphasized the need for individual connections, and no question, I come from the nonprofit sector, and making that connection and building that trust with the individuals are absolutely paramount. Now, to the issue around supports in the program for the youth that you're providing supports to. I'm wondering, in the face of COVID-19, the special situation and challenges in which it presents, given that some of the programming is coming to an end with respect to COVID supports. Do you have any concerns with respect to that, or would you like to, or do you have any recommendations to make in terms of going forward with ongoing supports for folks at this time? So maybe we can start with Mr. Cortez.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. I know that specialized programs are going to be coming to an end, and I'd suggest that for any ongoing recovery supports, that you look at multilateral. Don't make partnership for the sake of having partnership. I think I've been around long enough where you'd see, okay, government wants 10 support letters or 6 partners before it'll fund a program and so on. And you end up with nothing, but you end up with a lot of paper going back and forth between organizations. But where you can have really, really significant impact is really assigning true value in your funding assessments in your programs to interdisciplinary partnerships. For example, we have a great partnership with a local not-for-profit called London Abused Women's Center. Their focus is on women that have experienced abuse, physical, sexual abuse, and they are taking the lead on an anti-human trafficking initiative. Part of that involves girls as young as 15 years old. They've reached out to us, and we have a very active memorandum of understanding between our two organizations, where for anybody that falls into our age mandate, we can help them out with housing. We'll actually, when the shelter opens, we'll ensure that they get a dedicated room at the shelter, each young woman that comes in for a referral. And then these two organizations together, LOC, through the work that they do around the violence experiences, us around the housing and the employment supports that we can offer. Together, we're doing something that neither one of us could do individually. And we do that with mental health space, with CMHA, and with even our local hospitals around mental health care. And I would think that going forward for COVID recovery, these are very complex issues. No one organization is going to be able to do all these things. So I would hope that any ongoing federal investments would look at, you know what, you're not going to fund agency A to do what you normally do, plus a whole bunch more, and we'll measure you. We want to know how fundamentally are you working with your partnership and demonstrate the value in that, whether it's through an MOU that articulates the value added for your federal investment and then the community benefits, something like that, something that really, really instills these active partnerships.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. I just want to build on this question. One of the issues that I know, certainly in my own community, and in fact, there are two paramount issues. One is the lack of safe, secure, affordable housing, and particularly for youth is very difficult. They try to get an apartment, notwithstanding that rent is really high and the vacancy rate is low. When people see a young person come to the door, they have all kinds of reasons to not offer the unit, truth be told. And that's the reality to which they face. And then whenever governments at our provincial government here in British Columbia would build a housing project dedicated for young people, and it's just filled up just like that, right? Yeah. And so I'm wondering on the question around safe, secure, affordable housing for young people, in terms of action that needs to be taken a point by the federal government, what might that be?
It would be the investments in affordable housing, period. We're going from last year, we had 30 affordable apartments, 30 affordable housing units. By the time we're done, the few projects we've got on the go, we'll have 101. And it's not just the volume of apartments that becomes, I think, community changing, but it's again, partnerships that are part of that. So we're creating within our Jones Place, which is the next one we're about to develop, 35 apartments, but also 2 floors of what would be a youth wellness hub. So there'll be on-site delivery from justice. There'll actually be a court hearing that we just signed an agreement with the province of Ontario around that. So youth court will be in this building. CMHA will be in this building. Our local school board with the Alternative Education Center. Our great success has been that we've raised $7 million towards this. Our great detriment is that we need another 10. And
you've made an application to the federal government for this?
Yeah, we're working with CMHC, and one of our challenges is we, in terms of affordability, we try to keep our housing units at the rate where they're match roughly what social income support would be. So around $560 or so for a family, right? That's very, very deeply affordable. Our challenge is that we can't afford to carry a lot of debt. And make that work. And typically CMHC funding goes up to a platform, but then you have to carry debt. It's very affordable debt, but it's still debt. And it makes us charge more for apartments than we would like to charge.
Thank you, Ms. Kwan.
Give that some thought.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Next, we're going to go to Ms. Falk, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I would also like to thank both of our witnesses for their testimonies today and for the valuable work that both of your organizations do. We do know that job creation and job security is going to be integral to a successful economic restart. And some businesses we do know have been able to weather the pandemic, and some businesses have weathered it with the help of the emergency government programs that have been offered. And unfortunately, we know that there are some businesses who haven't, and others that are on the brink of permanently closing, and others that have had to restructure their businesses completely. So my first question is for Steve Cords with Youth Opportunities Unlimited. Connecting at-risk youth to employment opportunities is very valuable on the individual level, and also we do know benefits society as a whole. And the letter that you had shared with the committee from Samuel, which I did have an opportunity to look at this morning, is certainly a testament to how empowering a job opportunity is, but also how empowering people can be. When we take the time to listen and to help people one-on-one, and that comes from taking the time to genuinely listen and grow a rapport with them, and frankly, it comes down to caring. And it's important that youth job opportunities continue to be available and accessible. So I'm just wondering, in your view, what are the greatest barriers facing at-risk youth seeking employment? And has the pandemic changed these barriers?
Yeah, I think a couple. One is young people don't see themselves as employable, like not as a whole, but many young people don't see themselves as employable. So therefore, they opt to remove themselves from the job market. Our platform around social enterprise, and again, it sounds like I'm just pumping wild. This is a national platform. You've got delivers in every community, many communities across Canada. Social enterprise platform, when it's used as a training vehicle, can be game-changing for those folks because it takes them away from having to demonstrate how they're going to help a company make money and fit into a game that they don't necessarily know how to play, and to learn their passions, their hopes, their sense of what they enjoy. And I think when we serve sometimes vulnerable or marginalized youth, we forget that as much as the great programs are there for them and the employment opportunities can be there for them, we forget that it still has to be connected to what are their dreams and their hopes and for themselves. Sometimes it's, any job's a good job and so on. Well, that's true in a lot of cases. They need to see it, and it can't just be lectured to them. They have to start feeling like that's part of it, because starting a new job can be really scary if you've never worked before. So the social enterprise platform allows for that, and allows them to start seeing that they are part of this economy and that there are next steps for them. So the success rates of that program, those programs for us, are just phenomenal, actually. And they typically are for the most marginalized population that we serve are the ones that do exceptionally well at that, and they excel because the confidence in Sam's letter is a testament to that.
And I think it definitely too comes down to that one-on-one. I mean, when you read Sam's letter, he didn't feel valued. Right.
Exactly.
And I mean, having people take that opportunity and that time to sow into somebody and speak those words of affirmation and, give them the opportunity to try, things can change. And so I guess another question I do have for you. This committee in particular has heard testimony from other witnesses that have talked about some businesses moving towards permanent remote structures. So I'm just wondering how this would change, the work that you guys are doing and change impact. How would this change impact at risk youth?
There can be some pretty significant negative impacts on that because I think that our experience is that their networks tend not to be very supportive of their long-term growth and their long-term inclusion in a community. As I talked about earlier, you could be the one fish that's swimming upstream when all your friends are going downstream, and it's really hard to keep swimming upstream. And if everything's online, including jobs, are remote and in the way that a lot of things are virtual now, if that stays that way for this population, they'll not have had that opportunity to experience sense of community where they just feel like they've landed somewhere that feels good and that reinforces the behaviors that they want to develop. And if everything remains virtual, it's very hard for them to develop that sense. I think that's a community or communal experience. So I think there's some risk there for sure. And the challenge will be, how do we still, if we're going to lose some of that personal contact, how do we maintain whatever limited contact there is that is incredibly engaging, incredibly important?
Thank you, Ms. Falk, and thank you, Mr. Cortez. The last questioner for this panel will be Mr. Housefather, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank both witnesses for the excellent work that both of your organizations are doing in your communities. I very much appreciated, and I'm going to get to a couple of questions for both witnesses. I'll start with Mr. Cortez because I'm on the English channel. Mr. Cortez, my colleague Kate Young very much wanted to be here today. She wanted me to express her appreciation for the great work that you guys do. She wanted me to actually ask a question about whether or not you have seen a change in the mental health or issues with respect to greater homelessness during the COVID pandemic. I heard you answer Ryan's question already with respect to the 5 suicides and the added impact on mental health, but could you sort of tell me about the added impact on homelessness? And the second question that I have for you, I'll let you answer both together. Could you let me know if your organization has benefited from any of the COVID-related federal programs? Are you using the wage subsidy? Are you using the rental subsidy at all?
So on the impact on homelessness, absolutely. I think, for example, our existing youth shelter, so YOU is about to open up our own, but Salvation Army in the City of London has some youth beds. Their experience has been since COVID that young people are sleeping rough outside rather than going into that shelter these days. So that creates more risk on a lot of behaviors, drug addictions issues, trauma being taken advantage of. We're certainly seeing more young people that have experienced trafficking. Now, we do have staff that are dedicated to anti-human trafficking. We have 2.5 staff dedicated to that initiative. So we would expect to see a fair number of people who unfortunately have experienced that. The difficulty now is that with fewer housing options available, fewer support options available, it's harder to get out of that. So we're finding that that becomes more embedded in people's experiences. So that's certainly a concern for us, an area of concern for us. But on homelessness, we're seeing more young people sleeping rough.
And my other question about have you benefited from any of the government programs during the course of the pandemic?
We're exploring the wage subsidy still because now I know there was an announcement last week around the 30% platform because we've lost significant earned revenue. But our government revenue in the short term has not dropped significantly. So I think we're in the 20, like we're not quite at the 30%. But
you have the option. You have the option. I don't know enough about your organization, but nonprofits generally have the option of disregarding government revenue. So
Yeah.
if you need any help, please feel free to reach out to your MP on that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, because I know our finance team is working through what's the right option for us to pursue it. So, and then on the rental one, we're exploring that. Some of the properties we own ourselves, that's our challenge. When you own your own property, you're not eligible for that, right?
Yeah.
But we do rent some of the space, and so we're exploring it with one of our landlords.
Perfect. And hopefully other programs like the National Housing Strategy, the Social Innovation Funding, you're benefiting from. And again, thank you for your great work. Let me just change to the French channel. Je vais juste passer maintenant.
I will now ask a question to Mr. Racicot. Thanks again for your work. I was very happy to hear, Madame Chabot, that thanks to Madame Chabot, you have a lot of summer jobs. That's great. Also, you benefited from CERB. But I would like to ask you the same question that I asked to Mr. Cortez. During the pandemic, have you seen more mental health issues with young people that you work with? Are they different from the problems that you've seen before? I would not say that they're different problems, but they are amplified. Everything is amplified. There's more anxiety, more loneliness, more stress, more uncertainty when it comes to summer jobs. Everything is amplified. It's all doubled. And so we have to work with that. It's the same, but it's worse. Is it also true when it comes to homelessness? Where we are, we're working with an organization, Aristopop, and we work more at preventing homelessness. So this is linked to where we are. There are not that many homeless people in where we live. There are some, but not that many. I've worked 15 years in Montreal, in downtown Montreal, with homeless people. And here in Sainte-Thérèse is very different. Homelessness has a different phase. We work more in prevention. Our approaches go more towards preventing homelessness. And to come back to what we were saying before, to subsidies and everything. Our goal.
And the fall, c'est de la prévention du retour.
It will be for returning to school. Young people are afraid about going back to school. And we want to be there to support them. Thank you, Mr. Racicot. Thank you, Mr. Hausfather. Thank you to both witnesses. Thank you for your testimonies. And thank you for the work you do in your communities. It is so important for all Canadians to have organizations like yours to do this work. This is very important work.
Suspend to get ready for our next panel of witnesses. We are now suspended for 3 minutes. Welcome Mr. Owen Charters, President and Chief Executive Officer, and Isaac Fraser-Dablé, Member Youth Council of the Boys and Girls Club of Canada, as well as Nora Spinks, President and CEO of the Vanier Institute of the Family. We're going to go with the Boys and Girls Club first for your opening statement. Mr. Charters, I presume? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be starting and then I'll be passing to Isaac to give a bit of his personal experience. So, Mr. Chair, honorable members and committee staff, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you today and to contribute to this conversation about how we could support youth employment during this most challenging time in our country's history. Community-based services, positive relationships, and life-changing programs. As Canada's largest child and youth serving organization, Boys and Girls Clubs provides vital programs and services to over 200,000 young people in 775 communities across Canada. During critical out-of-school hours, our clubs help young people develop into healthy, active, and engaged adults. Our trained staff give children and youth the tools they need to realize positive outcomes in self-expression, in academics, in healthy living, physical activity, and in mental health. Over the past 100 years, and during these last 5 difficult months, our clubs have been there for vulnerable children, youth, and families. Today, clubs are actively providing food for families and partnering with their local food banks. We are providing childcare and programs for children and youth of essential workers now and for more families as our economy reopens. We are providing technology to support connectivity and running high-quality virtual programming to promote educational, physical, and mental health outcomes when kids can't be in clubs. Finally, we have continued to offer essential services such as transitional housing throughout these trying times. Our clubs across the country support youth to obtain employment, and we are a direct employer of thousands of youth within our programs each year. Clubs implement programs that engage youth in developing employable skills and acquiring a job, such as resume building and interview preparation. Clubs also have direct links to employers that support vulnerable youth to get and keep that all-important first job. Yet over the last 5 months, we have witnessed young workers being disproportionately affected by the downturn in the Canadian economy due to COVID-19 closures and physical distancing. We've seen unprecedented layoffs in industries such as restaurants, hotels, childcare services, retail, and in our own charitable sector. These industries are the sectors where young Canadians most often enter the workforce. We also know that across all sectors, it is often the most junior employees that are laid off first. Historically, the unemployment rate among young Canadians has been twice as high as that of all Canadians. National statistics also paper over deep inequities and barriers faced by youth in equity-seeking groups. Indigenous youth, newcomers, young people living in poverty, LGBTQ2+, young people with disabilities, racialized youth, and youth in rural and remote communities face unique and elevated barriers to labor market participation. These are the youth our programs serve. Given the unparalleled youth labor disruption, we need significant policy responses, and I want to take some time to both acknowledge the current response and to push us collectively to do more. First, the Canada Emergency Student Benefit has provided many of the youth we serve with much needed financial support during a time when many are unable to find work due to COVID-19. It is important to note here that many youth receiving this benefit were previously contributing to their families' day-to-day expenses through employment. This program is supporting vulnerable families to stay afloat during this time. In the early days of the pandemic, we and others called for a significant new investment in the youth employment and skills strategy. It is not built to tackle a youth employment crisis of this magnitude. In late April, we welcomed the new $100 million plus investment in the youth employment and skills strategy. We also want to recognize the $15 million for the Supports for Student Learning program that aims to ensure that vulnerable children and youth, many of whom our clubs serve, do not become further marginalized as a result of COVID-19. Finally, the Canada Summer Jobs Program changes announced on April 8th are important and are furthering the policy objective to support youth to enter and stay in the workforce. Temporarily allowing part-time positions and job placement and end dates as late as February 2021 will support vulnerable youth who often have other family obligations in accessing this program and providing employers the flexibility they need in order to continue to move forward with the positions they previously applied for. We were surprised, however, that our clubs only saw a small number of additional grants when the Canada Summer Jobs Program was expanded earlier this spring, and some positions didn't get grants. These are, on the whole, very positive developments, yet we know more is needed as businesses and nonprofits scale back their employment plans given the economic conditions. In respect of this, we are making 3 recommendations for the Canada Summer Jobs Program. 1, Today, we are repeating our call and the recommendation of the Canadian government's expert panel on youth employment to permanently evolve the Canada Summer Job Program into a year-round Canada Youth Jobs Program. We know the normal mode of Canada Summer Jobs doesn't reflect the reality of many youth and how they organize their time in work and education, and that many youth who are not in post-secondary studies would benefit from accessing these placements throughout the calendar year. We also know firsthand that employers, especially small and medium-sized enterprises, as well as nonprofits and charities, would benefit from the flexibility to offer placements at different times during the year. Permanently modifying the Canada Summer Jobs Program into a year-round youth jobs program will provide the flexible and holistic supports that are needed now for young Canadians to develop the skills and work experience they need as they enter and navigate a very challenging labor market. Secondly, allowing for part-time jobs and instituting a trusted employer mechanism and corresponding multi-year funding as part of the Canada Summer Jobs or Canada Youth Jobs Program will further enable employers to better plan for and meaningfully engage youth employees. Thirdly, as the Canada Summer Jobs Program transitions to the Canada Youth Jobs Program, we recommend another round of CSJ-like grants to support employers in hiring young Canadians. This round should be launched in the late fall, potentially, with employment to begin early in 2021. We've seen civil servants move mountains over the last 5 months, and so we know this can be done. These policy recommendations build off of the federal government expert panel on youth employment's final report and are even more relevant now to support young Canadians during this unprecedented time. I'd now like to take the opportunity for a member of our National Youth Council, Isaac, to speak to his experience during COVID-19, especially in terms of his personal experiences. So I'll turn to Isaac.
Thank you, Owen. Good afternoon, committee members. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Isaac Fraser Dabley. Today I want to share how COVID-19 has affected me, my employment, and my community. I am 16, live in Fredericton, New Brunswick, and am a member of the Boys and Girls Club of Canada's National Youth Council. Members of the Youth Council help at our local clubs and also work directly with Boys and Girls Club's national team and setting priorities to support children and youth. Prior to COVID, I was attending high school and working at a bakery and getting a couple shifts a week. Once COVID hit, that came to a screeching stop. I was laid off, I couldn't save for college or even pay for my phone bill. This didn't just happen to me. It happened to many of my friends. Some of them weren't as lucky as I was to return to work. They were either let go or the business has closed. The business has closed, my bad. Now they are trying to find new jobs to save for college or other things. But in today's environment, it's very hard to find a job. I want to take a moment to dispel what young people often hear, that we don't want to work and we want things handed to us. I've been working since I was 5 by helping my great-grandfather sell Christmas trees at the local market. I continued to do this till I was 14 when I started to work at a gourmet grilled cheese food truck. For the past 2 years, I have worked at a bakery. Starting to work at a young age taught me the concept of money and helped me build a strong work ethic. Working at a young age will help others learn these important skills. I know many people who are given whatever they want without earning it. They'll never learn that life doesn't work like that, and they won't always get what they want all the time. The young people I know who have worked understand how hard it is to make $1. It also helps you learn how to save for college or even buy a new car. I personally think it's better to learn the importance of money and saving at a young age, because if you don't, you could possibly have financial problems when you're older. We aren't lazy and we will change the world. I want to close by urging you to be bold in supporting youth employment during this really difficult time. We have been out of school, isolated from our friends, and laid off from our jobs. We can make real differences in our communities and across Canada with the policy recommendations we are proposing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Isaac. And Mr. Chair, we turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great job, Isaac. Thank you, Mr. Charters. Next, Ms. Spinks, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thanks for the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you this afternoon. This has been a time of disruption, a time of difficulty for some, a time of opportunity for others, and certainly a time of adaptation and adjustment for us all. This disruption has changed the way we work, who works and who doesn't, how we connect with our coworkers, our colleagues, our clients, our customers, and how we connect to family and friends, our community, and the world. This is a period of focus on health and well-being. It's also a period of generosity and gratitude. It's a period of responsiveness and responsibility. It's a period of time for learning and growth. As a research and education organization, we're focused on understanding families, family life, and family experiences, expectations, and aspirations. And COVID has really put a spotlight on family. We have either spent intensive amounts of togetherness or we've experienced extreme separation. Every system has been tested. Our economic system, healthcare, justice, child welfare, community services, education, early learning and childcare, long-term care, and our system of families. And one of the things that we have learned through all our work in the last several months is that every strength and every weakness of each of these systems has been magnified, intensified, and amplified during COVID. An example of that is our healthcare system. The magnification of the dedicated medical professionals and those who support them has been magnified. The weaknesses in the long-term care sector, where our reliance on family, friends, and volunteers to supplement the care, once you remove them from that environment, we know that the quality of care drops dramatically. This has been a period of time where we focused on needing to be well, to do well, and to stay well. And in order to do that, we need to really understand how our systems have been tested. We know that each of these has had an impact on family well-being. And we've come to the conclusion that there's about 9 things that need to be in place to optimize family well-being during COVID and hereafter. The first one is income. It needs to be adequate, stable, and predictable. The physical environment needs to be adequate, needs to be stable, and there needs to be access to outdoors. Employment or attachment to the labor force needs to be flexible, needs to have tools to be successful, and there needs to be autonomy on how, where, and when work gets done. For children, they need to have attentive adults, that they need access to internet for homeschooling, and they need opportunities to play, to explore, and to discover. Families need adequate nutrition and opportunity for exercise, access to the healthcare system. They need quality connections with each other and others, and they need access to current, reliable, accurate information. And lastly, they need to be able to optimize their connections through individual and family well-being. And we know that not everybody has all of these elements in place, in particular in rural, remote, and northern communities where there's high density and high precarity. So just to give you a little bit of sense of what we've been up to since we went into lockdown on March 10th, is that we began collaborating and partnering immediately with Statistics Canada, with the Association of Canadian Studies and Leger to do week-over-week polling. We've collaborated with a group of people to establish the COVID-19 Social Impacts Network, which is now over 125 people who study, serve, and support individuals and families and need to understand how COVID is impacting. We've been a part of the CAN COVID network of experts that have been brought together by Canada's Chief Science Officer. We have been collaborating with our colleagues in Australia, the European Union, the US. We've been working with the G7 team of Women for Women Empower, with UNICEF, with the UN on the expert panel on families, with our university colleagues who are receiving SSHRC and CIHR grants. We've also been partnering with the Canadian Association of Marriage and Family Therapists and the Canadian Counseling and Psychotherapists Association, and a project that we've been working on looking at veteran families with True Patriot Love Foundation, Veterans Affairs, and the Canadian Institute for Military Veteran Health Research. So what we've been doing is week over week, we've been collecting data through a poll. And we have a standard set of questions that have been the same since March 10th. And then we change a few of those week over week. We've also done some targeted surveys and participated with Statistics Canada on their crowdsourcing survey. So we collect the data, we analyze it, we synthesize it, we mobilize it, and we operationalize it. So the surveys go out on Friday. They run over the weekend. We get the data back on Monday. We analyze it on Tuesday. We write the reports on Wednesday, translate it Thursday, and Friday, the cycle returns again. We've been also doing specific surveys with children and youth, and doing that both in collaboration with UNICEF and also with Experiences Canada. A survey with family therapists, because we want to know what they're seeing in their offices. And as I mentioned, veteran families. And we've done boosters in the week over week that include new Canadians, Indigenous peoples, people from visible minority communities, and again, some boosters with youth. And we collect that data, and we've been running conferences and doing reflective practice sessions across the country week over week. So we've been posting this data, and I've been sort of looking at what I can share with you. There is a ton of information on our website and a lot more on the COVID-19 social impacts website, and I'll make sure that you have access to all of that. What we've been finding, or what we're waiting for funding for, is looking at a broad Families in Canada survey. We're waiting to hear back for some funding on families in recovery, families new to Canada, a study on fertility and pregnancy implications, because what we've been hearing is that young people who are planning pregnancies in 2020 have postponed those, and that's going to have huge implications for everything from maternity benefits through to kindergarten and high schools in the years ahead. And we're also looking at parents' confidence in the early learning and childcare and education systems as we start the rollback over the summer and into the fall. So we've been designing these surveys and these polls so that we can compare them with the pre-COVID using existing tools, and then looking at them post-COVID. So we're also looking at some of the international things, like what's the impact on air pollution on childhood allergies and asthma and premature births. Premature births have been dropping steadily during COVID, and nobody really understands why. So we want to get a handle on that. And we want to look at the stresses and strains on families and community and the impact on well-being. So with just a few minutes left, I just want to give you some samples of some of the results that we've experienced in the last little while. One of the things that's interesting is that the data that's being collected right now is of very high quality. It's representative. It's solid information. One of the things, people are really interested to tell their story and to share their information. So the very first crowdsourcing survey that Statistics Canada did in relationship to COVID-19, when we had the questions ready and it was ready to roll out, we were hoping to get about 15,000 responses within 10 to 15 days. By day 6 in the field, we had more than 275,000 responses. And of those, 68% gave their email addresses for further study thereafter. So the data that we have is solid. So we do know that those who were doing well before COVID are by and large still doing well. Those that were not doing well are doing way worse. And those in the middle, many of them are doing better, and a few of them are doing not as well. So just to give you some specifics, I'll just share with you briefly a couple from the very last poll that we put out, which I think might be of particular interest to you, around how many people are worried about the deficit. 35% are very worried, 43% somewhat worried, and 18% not at all or not very worried. In response to the deficit, asked whether or not they thought that government should scale back on the programs or payments. 41% said yes, 44% said no. Of mask wearing, most people who are wearing masks are doing so in grocery stores, For those who flat out refuse, it's mostly in bars, which is the highest refusal rate, and in public transit. When asked whether or not people think that we're at the end of the first wave, 40% say yes, 47% say no. When asked about releasing protective measures, 10% say that the government should accelerate that pace. 64% are quite content and ask that you maintain it, and only 26% want you to slow it down. In terms of mental health, if you had excellent or very good mental health going into COVID, chances are you're still experiencing excellent or very good mental health. If you had bad mental health, it's as bad or worse. If there was a slight shift around early April, where a lot of the negatives peaked and then they came down, and this is true too for couples. So couples in March and into early April, very lovey-dovey, meaningful conversations, no stresses, no strains. And then by week 3, they were getting a little testy with one another. Not so great by week 3, 4, and then it stabilized and has been fairly positive thereafter. People find it's very stressful leaving their homes, even with masks. And the youth are more afraid of their loved ones contracting COVID than themselves, and they're very much interested in looking after each other. In terms of fear...
Ms. Spinks, can you wrap it up? We're well
Sure.
over time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Fear was highest in early April, and it was also lowest in early April. So if you were very afraid, it was high in April, or not at all afraid, also high in April. So you can see by just these few examples that there is a lot we can learn from the data that has been collected. And now it's a period of time to actually figure out how we're going to apply some of this learning in the programs, services, and supports going forward. So thank you for your time, and I apologize. My clock says I'm still on time, so sorry.
Thank you very much. It was extremely valuable information. I was quite reluctant to stop you, quite frankly, but there will be more come out in the course of the questions, I'm sure. And we're going to start with Ms. QC for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much to all of our witnesses here today, Owen and Isaac. It's very wonderful to see the both of you here at committee. Owen, I'm going to start with you. You mentioned that you did not receive all of the Canada Summer Job Grants for which you had applied. I'm wondering if you got any information or reason as to why you did not receive the grants for all of the positions for which you put requests forward.
Yeah, thank you. There are definitely some clubs that received all of them. We had several who are used to receiving certain portions or allocations, I guess, of the Summer Jobs Grant, and then discovered that they had not all been approved. When they talked to their local MPs, they were given the reason that there were much higher demand for the Summer Job Grants than has been normally the case. So I think there were more employers out there looking for it. So they were told while there may have been more grants given overall, there were many more employers looking for them. And that's all we've been told at this point in any of the follow-ups. I think some have done a follow-up subsequent to see if there was a way to refine some of those positions, but I don't have a follow-up yet on how that's gone.
Okay, thank you for that, Owen. Isaac, thank you so much for being here today. I just love listening to your story about your life in Fredericton. I believe I was in Fredericton this past summer, and I think I had the good fortune to go to the market, which you described, and it's just a wonderful place. Your story really resonated with me in terms of sort of the hopes of young Canadians today. So I wanted to ask you, when you and your friends talk about the future, how do you feel about your futures, and what do you see?
When my friends and I talk about our future, we talk about what jobs we're looking at and kind of where we want to be set up, like where we think where we work, like where we should be set up when we're working. So one of my friends, he likes computer science and and the technology of that, and he thinks maybe he should go to Toronto, and so he's thinking about going there because he knows it's bigger demand there than it is here. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so you just think about the different dreams that you have for your future, like all young people, and like all young people should. Thank you for that, Isaac. Yeah, Ms. Spinks, thank you very much for your testimony. I was very happy, if I may say, to hear you mention True Patriot Love, a certain leadership candidate I'm supporting in the Conservative race as a founding member of the board of directors. So thank you for that. And I feel as though you might have had a spy cam in my house, seeing the interactions between my spouse and I over the last few months. I wanted to say I find legitimacy with all of the responses that you gave, but what really breaks my heart is I'm feeling that in regards to the testimony of all of our witnesses here today, we're talking about jobs, programs, and how the jobs and supports are going to be distributed. But from that, we need a strong economic recovery plan. Our opposition, the Conservatives, has said over and over again, we are the only nation in the G7 that doesn't have an economic recovery plan. I want everyone to receive the supports which they so require, all Canadians. I want Canadians like Isaac, young Canadians, to have good jobs to go to, and I'm very concerned that we are not seeing an economic recovery plan fast enough to allow for all of that. So Ms. Spinks, just a few comments there on that. I really appreciate your commentary. Thank you very much. But now I'll go back to Mr. Charters Owen, as I've been calling you, if I may, please. I wanted to give you an opportunity to explain your program, your year-round Canada Youth Jobs program, sort of to expand upon that. And as well, I wanted to get your opinion, in addition to explaining further the program which you envision. If you have seen the CERB negatively impact the youth initiative. Isaac has talked about how young people, they want to enter the workforce, they want to be in the workforce, but has that had any influence in youth employment that you've seen at all? So if you perhaps could explain a bit more your program and then comment a bit on the CERB, please.
Yeah, I'll try to do a bit on both. I think the first piece is we're looking at the fact it's not just about this pandemic, it's about the fact that youth don't just simply leave school at the end of the spring term and come back in the fall anymore. They're changing the times at which they come back to school. They're taking gap years. They're juggling their schedule to start in different semesters. There's a lot more flexibility in post-secondary education. So what we see as a program that is designed around really an older agrarian model that says you have the summer off and that's when your summer jobs happen. Yet we're seeing employers saying there is opportunities that don't just happen in the summer. There's opportunities in lots of industries that happen year round. And if we were able to offer these opportunities to youth at times that make sense for them and allow for them to, in some cases, save up for education to take the time before they re-enter post-secondary education, then we'd have a program that better fits the realities of how youth think about work and how they think about education. So the idea around this has come, I think, even, as I said, pre-pandemic, that this is a program that would better suit the needs for both employers and students these days. So that's the first piece, I think, in terms of just rethinking this in terms of what it would be a greater modernization of how the program works. I can't speak as significantly around CERB, except to say that as students, as my understanding, are not eligible, but they've been, benefiting from the Canada Emergency Student Benefit, that's been okay, but not adequate, because what we're seeing is that there's a huge demand for students to go into savings mode through the summer months, and that the living expenses, tuition expenses, when you add these all up, you have a lot of youth who aren't pulling in the same incomes, either from jobs or from these benefits that they might have done when they would have had a full-time employment or opportunities around that. So what we're seeing is that it's not significant enough to give youth the opportunities that they're looking for from those benefits. I have to admit, I don't have many more details in terms of access or lack of access, except that what we're seeing is that students saying it's not enough for them.
Thank you, Mr. Charters and Ms. QC. Next, we're going to go to Mr. Long, please, for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to everybody. Mr. Charters, first and foremost, I want to acknowledge the great work that you do and the Boys and Girls Club do right across the country. Certainly in my riding of St. John Rossay, the Boys and Girls Club have an excellent executive director, and Amy Appleby Shanks and her team. They continue to do fantastic work. They opened up their gym through this pandemic for Outflow, our men's shelter. They just do wonderful, wonderful work. Isaac, I want to thank you. Hello from St. John, New Brunswick, your neighbor. I want to thank you for sharing youth perspective. Your presentation and your words were very profound and meaningful, so thank you for that. And Mr. Charters, I just want to also throw in that I wholeheartedly support your advocacy for the transformation of Canada Summer Jobs into a Canada Youth Jobs program. Last Parliament, last committee, I was proud to be part of the committee. We recommended to ESDC that they explore transforming the jobs program into a broadly based youth jobs program for Canadian youth as a part of the report, Experiential Learning and Pathways to Employment for Canadian Youth. So I just want to throw that in, that you certainly have my support in that. So, Mr. Charters, my question to you is this. Our government announced $50 million emergency community support fund to support charities and nonprofits delivering services to help communities through COVID-19 pandemic. Has the Boys and Girls Club, the local branches, applied for or received any of this funding? If so, what has been the impact of this funding on the ground?
Thank you, Mr. Long. That's a great question, and great to acknowledge Amy Shanks, who does wonderful work, as you say, in St. John's, and keeps our feet to the fire as well in our national team to make sure they get what they need from us. I would say the $350 million Emergency Relief Benefit Fund has been most clubs have applied and have received funding. They've received them through the streams, through community foundations, through Red Cross, and as well through the United Way, depending on what sort of support they were looking for. Many have talked about the support that's provided. A lot of it is when our clubs have been on the ground, they're providing emergency food relief. They're providing a lot of emergency mental health supports, check-ins to families, and all of these measures cost money. That program was critical to supporting that work. We've also seen it support personal protective equipment that clubs do need. I think that one thing I would add, though, is that clubs have struggled with the fact that it doesn't support some of their own financial needs. It's very much was designed to support the direct service, which is fantastic, that they've seen the families, children, and youth in their communities need. What they struggle with is that it doesn't pay things like their rent and overhead. Our clubs are infrastructure based, and so they see those costs continue through. So we continue to push for some form of a sustainability fund that nonprofits and charities might benefit from beyond the $350 million fund, because yes, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I just want to get a few of these things in. I mean, you just acknowledged that, the fund may not support some of your financial needs of the clubs, and I've heard that from other nonprofits too. So what kind of program, how would you like to see funding roll out that would impact you more effectively?
Yeah, there was a proposal put in originally by Imagine Canada, and I think it's still on the table with the SDC, that looks at a grant-based program that looks at losses and I think allows charities, especially charities and nonprofits, to calculate, if you think more about their balance sheet and what they might be struggling with. We're not replacing all income here. We're thinking about the fact that these organizations sometimes have costs that are draining their reserves, and most charities don't have many reserves. So Imagine put in a proposal that looked for a grant-based fund that would allow organizations to apply for cost recovery for things that would allow them to keep the doors open or return to service when they can and safely can do so.
Okay. Thank you for that. And Mr. Chair, I'd like to share the rest of my time with MP Kujamaric.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Long. Go ahead, Mr. Kuzmarek.
Well, thank you very much, Chair and Mr. Charters. I really do appreciate your enthusiasm for the Canada Summer Jobs Program. And I can tell you that when our government stepped forward in 2015, one of the first things that we did is double the amount of Canada Summer job placements. And during the COVID pandemic, we actually invested to add an additional 10,000. So I can tell you that we've created 86,000 quality positions for young people across the country at this point. In addition to the number of jobs, I just wanted you to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the flexibilities that we introduced, and especially the flexibility to be able to carry out the placements up to February 28th of 2021. If you can speak about the importance of having those flexibilities for young people to be able to take advantage of those placements while they're in school.
Yeah, I actually think that's exactly the sort of flexibility that we're looking for, and I think we've seen that those investments, the doubling in the funding, has been fantastic, and it has worked. There are many clubs that we see as employers, and many others that are taking advantage of these positions, and I think that's clear by the fact that we've got some clubs that may not have fulfilled their usual quotas. So the demand is there, I think, on both sides, both in employers and for youth. I think the flexibility to take it through to February is a great recognition of the flexibility that employers are one, but I also think that students are looking for. What I'm hearing from a lot of students, Isaac is one example, but I hear from many others that are saying they're really uncertain about how they're going to return to school. They're uncertain about what their employment prospects look like through this winter season. And so they're looking at the fact that they may need to be working more, either doing schoolwork and working. They may be doing schoolwork virtually, or they may decide to put off schoolwork by a term in order to earn enough, or to be, I think, some who are looking forward to returning in person and waiting for the moment they can return to the classroom in an in-person basis. So that extension has been, I think, received quite positively from the clubs we've spoken to and by other employers. And I also think it's a model for how the program might evolve to become something that is a more year-round program and recognizes that it's not just during a pandemic, but that is how students are increasingly thinking about school and work.
Thank you, Mr. Charters and Mr. Kuzmarchuk. Suite, c'est le tour de...
I think we'll give the floor now to Madame Chabot for 6 minutes. Thank you. Quick question for you, Mr. Chalmers. And welcome, Madame Spink. Madame Chabot, could you move your mic a little bit closer? Yes, I think I was wearing it above my head. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I mean, it doesn't go direct from brain to mic. Okay, I've heard from the group of experts, Santé Canada, Health Canada, 3 recommendations or 3 groups of recommendations. You'd like to see a program, this summer employment program, be extended to function 12 months a year. And that part-time would be recognized as a category by Employment Canada. I think that's under consideration, perhaps, by Employment Canada. And I didn't quite recall what your 3rd recommendation was. So my question is, what was that 3rd recommendation? And if I ask you the question, I'm sure that you're quite aware that this committee has adopted a motion to take a look, to evaluate, if you will, the performance of the summer employment program during the pandemic. But memory fails me. What was that 3rd recommendation you made, sir? Mr. Charter? Thank you very much, Madame Chabot. My 3rd recommendation that we have proposed this afternoon here, if the program is modified or amended to a year-long program, January, December, 12 months a year, would be an appeal made to you for more grants. Currently, we ran a campaign and we had the program over the spring, and we would need to renew an admissibility program so that other employers could come in, so more students could participate. Okay, thank you. I would like to thank Isaac as well for his presentation. By way of the federal programming, we're trying to fulfill two objectives. The program, of course, can always be improved, but the rules were changed, more flexibility, but the funding was assured 100% for public and private organizations, whereas in the past it was a 50-50 formula. And for the part-time category, that all fell in within the same budgetary envelope. But now, if we open up another program, another tranche, as it were, in the fall to allow businesses, given the pandemic, if other businesses would like to benefit from this program, further employers and further students, of course. As you said, it's very difficult for students to find a job right now, and it's very difficult when they are at their studies, of course. Well, there seems to be a bit of dead air between my question and that was a question.
Yeah, I think the program, the concept of the program is that there are more students who are now looking. There's so many students that the employment rate that we've seen for students is it remains stubbornly high, in fact, and is higher now during a pandemic. And this is a program that if we can continue it year round, run a second round of grants for employers and students in the fall, you're going to see that may have a significant impact on getting that employment rate down for youth and getting them into jobs where I think we're going to see employers who are back up and operating and looking for jobs to be filled and looking for students to fill those jobs. It is tricky while doing studies. I think also we've seen the fact, though, that students typically are doing either balancing studies and work as they see the increasing costs of schooling go up. We're also seeing people who are deferring the start of their school year and have the capacity to continue to earn, depending on how flexible the program is to accommodate that.
Bon, je vais éviter le commentaire.
Okay, I'll try not to make comments. I think that the program, the summer employment program, between terms, school terms, allow many students, of course, to get gainful employment in the summer. I realize that, but students do work while they're studying. And I know that there's a lot of uncertainty for what their plans are about returning to their studies, resuming their studies or not. There's no question there, but I do have a further question. There's also the emergency student benefit. There's not only the CERB and there's not only the Canada Summer Employment Program. There's been some negative reaction that this student benefit program was not sufficiently flexible. Have you examined both of these benefits, the CERB and the students, the equivalent for students? The CESB.
The CESB, which is $1,250 a month to cover living expenses, that it doesn't, in fact, cover a lot of the living expenses as it currently stands. This is also about the fact that students usually are employed not just to cover expenses, but to earn an income that allows them to save for school, and in some cases are contributing to family expenses as well. So we see youth increasingly in a position of I guess, multiple pressures where they are providing both for their education and providing for their family. The current benefit, that the emergency student benefit, isn't significant enough to replace what many students would have earned in a job. And our understanding of the CERB is that because they're not in standard employment, they're not eligible for the CERB and the way it operates. So what we're looking for is a program that actually has students in jobs and being employed, which we think would benefit the economy and would benefit students in terms of both experiences and income overall.
Thank you, Mr. Charters. Merci, Madame Chabot. Next,
Merci
Ms.
beaucoup.
Kwan, please, for 6 minutes.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for your presentation. I'd like to just follow up on the issue around the Canada Summer Job. I mean, part of the problem I know in my own riding is consistent every year. The dollars are deficient in funding all of the applications. In fact, this year, only about a third of the applicants actually got funding, and is not 100% funding by any stretch of the imagination. And the government also asked us to identify additional groups for them that were tied to COVID. We made our recommendation. We phoned around and contacted everybody. And still, as it stands right now, barely any of those organizations that I submitted got funding at all. So hence, we have a situation where there's a lot of hype about it, but the reality is that there's not a lot of resource to support the groups, and this has been an ongoing problem for as long as I've been a member of parliament. So I'm particularly interested in the notion of doing a year-round program. And, aside from creating that flexibility and stability, I think, for organizations, the kind of resources that would be required. So from that perspective, I wonder if you could speak to that about the, what kind of granting resources would we need to see for this program to be effective in that way, Mr. Charters?
That's quite a good question, because I think there have been critiques of the granting program from the start, not just in terms of availability, but also timeliness. There have been times where I think organizations, and I can recall myself applying for grants and getting calls on the Easter long weekend to finalize applications for positions that, especially when you look at small businesses and nonprofits who are not able to, they're waiting for this grant to decide if they will hire. Many university students are looking for those jobs back in January, and yet we can't post or be certain that the jobs are available until pretty much too late towards the actual start of the summer employment program period. So one of the pieces in flexibility that I think would be beneficial is if this became year-round. It seems to me you would ideally have civil servants dedicated to this program who could begin processes earlier and keep those processes running if there were 2 or 3 granting cycles, that those processes would be more cyclical. And I think you might have a program that's able to listen to and really benefit what employers are looking for and what students are looking for, instead of one that happens on a seasonal basis as it currently does. I think also as part of that, the idea of being able to really understand the needs of employers. Clearly right now, the needs of employers have changed significantly due to the pandemic, but being able to really understand what employers are looking for and what students are looking for out of the program, I think in a more dedicated way, that would be pretty fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Well, related to the funding stream as well, I mean, the government decided, as we know, it's a huge controversy with the WE funding, almost $1 billion that goes into volunteer, and then effectively, if you count out the hours, is minimum wages, and in some cases less for young people. And some would argue that directing those dollars into the Canada Summer Job Program would be a far more effective means. So I don't want to get into all the controversy around that belongs somewhere else, but I'm talking about investment in young people and making sure that they get the employment opportunities as well as the earnings and experience as well. So I wonder if you can speak to the value of redirecting dollars, such as programs for volunteering in the WE program that was allocated towards Canada Summer's Job.
I'm happy to talk about the fact that, first of all, I think volunteering is fundamentally important. We've been members, actually founding members of the Canada Service Corps, and firmly believe in the incentivizing of volunteering amongst young people. I think it becomes a lifelong value that people really benefit from. That said, in some of the conversations that I know out of that we had with other potential partner organizations, we had that conversation and we declined with our clubs because we felt that employment was a much more significant priority for our clubs. Our clubs work in fields where, given the fact we work with children and youth, security checks are high, training needs are significant. And we want to be sure that the people we're putting in front of our youth, our members, have had the capacity and commitment to go through that. While there are possibilities to get committed volunteers, for us, staffing was job one. We have about 7,000 staff across the country. Many of those staff are youth, and they are hired for the summer months to work in summer camps and to work with children and youth. There were 6,000 of those staff laid off at the beginning of the pandemic. They slowly came back on as CERB and other programs allowed for. But in our case, employment was first and foremost the priority. And we believe that in terms of the summer jobs program. And so any investment that can be put in, whether that comes from other programs or other investments, that's up to the government to decide. But I think for us, a greater investment in our jobs program would see the greatest benefit for most youth of this country.
Thank you very much. I don't disagree with you about the value of volunteering, but I think there's a difference in terms of what was done with the V program versus what should be done. In any event, I'm just going to turn to Ms. Spinks for a minute. With all the data that she provided to us, I wonder if she can shed some light about a gender impact analysis, if you will, with COVID, and particularly the impact for women. And the value of a national childcare program.
Sure. Certainly, we have a ton of data that model very clearly that women are disproportionately affected by COVID. No question. Financially, physically, emotionally, intellectually, all of that, much more impacted. We know that for particularly women who are at risk of violence or are vulnerable in terms of their attachment to the labor force, whether they're essential workers and their vulnerability is about getting sick, or they're caregivers and their vulnerability is about not being able to provide that care, particularly since long-term care facilities have been really locked down. And financially, more women are either leaving the workforce in order to care for their children or are thinking about, if schools do not return on a full-time basis in the fall, that they will not be able to continue working from home remotely and homeschooling and raising children all at the same time, particularly those women who don't have other adults around to rely on or to support them. And so definitely women are disproportionately represented. They're also disproportionately represented in the research. So in a crowdsourcing survey, for example, more women will respond than men. So we have a really good voice of women in the data. And women are articulating that they're quite pleased with and satisfied with the government measures that are in place. And if you look at the very satisfied, somewhat satisfied, 75% at the, or 76% at the federal level and 79% at the provincial level.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? I wonder whether or not in that data, if there's any information about the need for childcare. I'm hearing that a lot in my own writing.
Absolutely.
And people are saying we need a national childcare program.
We're well past time. It absolutely is a fascinating discussion, and Ms. Spinks, please feel free to supplement or augment any of your answers, including the answer to that last question by follow-up in writing. Folks, we're past the hour. I want to thank all of you. It's good to see you again, my colleagues. To the witnesses, Ms. Spinks, the work of the Vanier Institute is extremely important and influential for policymakers and for the national discourse. Thank you for what you do. Mr. Charters, I can't let you go without telling you what a fantastic job Amanda Beasley is doing at the Boys and Girls Club in Charlottetown. And Mr. Fraser Dabley, 41 years ago, I took my first job as a student at Fredericton High School at the convenience store on Regent Street. So just be careful the path that you take. You may end up here. To all of you, thank you very much. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. We're adjourned.
See everybody.